My name is Iverna McGowan. I'm an international expert on international human rights law, and I'm currently director of my own consultancy company, and I've held a number of leadership positions both in not-for-profit organisations and international organisations over the last 10 years. As a woman, as you've said, who has experience both in civil society leadership, in working leadership positions in international organisations, but also as a woman who has experience running for public office, I really have to say one of the things perhaps that I haven't necessarily learned but come to fully understand is the importance of collective support for women. And what I mean by that is a lot of the time the narrative is about women stepping up to the plate, whether it's that they have to lean in, whether it's we ask women to run, but actually there are so many obstacles, cultural issues and other systemic challenges, and the only way that we can overcome them is having a more broad conversation in society about what it really means to promote women, but also ensuring that when we ask a woman to run or encourage a woman to lead, that there's really collective support behind her, the people around her, but also the systems in place, that they're fully supportive of her. My experience in leadership, unfortunately, has been that people do treat you differently because you're a woman. Sometimes this is in a very unconscious bias way. There might be, I can think of an example where a potential employer was concerned that I wouldn't be willing to travel for the job. And I think there was no other reason of him to come to that conclusion other than the fact that I was a woman of a certain age, so he presumed my responsibilities in the home. So there's those little unconscious bias. There's also the fact that sometimes there could be more open prejudice as well. I remember on one occasion in the context of considering running for public office, that a concern from a potential voter was, well, what happens if you get pregnant when you're a politician? And of course, that's a very particular question that a woman is asked. People don't ask male politicians if they're worried they'll become a father during their tenure as well. So there is still, I think, a different perception sometimes of women. There's also, of course, a lot of stereotypes in the expectation of how leaders conduct themselves, and sometimes women can find themselves in a double bind, that if you're too nice, you're not taken too seriously enough. If you're actually more assertive, then you're seen as too harsh or unlikable. So trying to navigate all of those stereotypes in broader society and taking up in sometimes what haven't been traditional leadership roles can definitely be a particular challenge for women. When I look back, one of the most valuable pieces of advice that I've had in my career was the point to seek really support both in a professional way, whether that's an executive coach, whether it's somebody to help you with human resources in a professional way, but also support through your network, through people who you can trust, who you can learn from, who you can confide in. That's really been one of the pieces of advice that I've kept with me throughout my career and rings true throughout my career. So that's obviously something I would start with to say to other women starting out. Another point that I think is very important is, and it might sound corny, but it stands the test of time, is that when you're choosing a career, you really do have to follow things that you're passionate about. And it can be harder. I mean, I've chosen a path in working in human rights, in working in areas that are very challenging, very competitive. But if you're really passionate about what you do, that will shine through, and it will also encourage you to invest more in your own learning and development. And also you have to remember that, of course, our work takes up so much of our time that it's so important to be happy doing it. So do what you love and do it well, and make sure that you have a coalition of support, both professional and informal, around you to succeed.